Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going on a deep dive into Obsidian.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah, it is. You know that note-taking app?
Yeah.
Works offline, uses Markdown.
Right. Yeah, I've heard of it.
So you might be thinking...
Oh, another note-taking app.
Exactly. What's the big deal?
Yeah.
But trust me, this one is going to take us down a path that you might not expect.
Right.
We're going to see how Obsidian can level up your sprint planning for work and help you design complex neural networks.
What?
I know, right? Wild combination.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Super curious to unpack how it all works.
Yeah, me too. It is remarkable how versatile it can be.
Absolutely.
I think it just goes to show that organizing information effectively can benefit you in a bunch of different domains.
Okay, so let's start with sprint planning.
Okay.
Now, this is key in agile project management, which some of you out there might be familiar with, just to level set.
Yeah.
Could you give us a quick rundown of what sprint planning actually is?
Of course. Imagine you're building a website.
Okay.
A sprint is basically a short burst of focused work, usually a week or two long, where your team tackles a specific set of tasks, like a mini project within the larger project. Sprint planning is about deciding what those tasks are, who's doing what, and how you'll track your progress. It's all about setting clear goals and making sure everybody is on the same page.
I got it. So where does Obsidian come in?
So
our source material talks about using Obsidian to manage all the moving pieces of a sprint.
Right. And a great place to start is by setting up your workspace.
Okay.
So Obsidian lets you create like a custom folder structure. So for sprint planning, you could have a folder for each sprint, like sprint 1, sprint 2, and so on.
Gotcha.
Then folders for tasks, user stories.
Right.
Maybe a backlog folder for tasks that aren't assigned to a specific sprint.
Makes sense.
It's like creating a digital filing system.
Yeah, I like that.
For your project.
Yeah. So far, so good.
Yeah.
But we're not just talking about folders, are we?
We are not.
It's the notes themselves that really make Obsidian shine.
Absolutely.
Right.
Each task gets its own dedicated note.
Okay.
This is where things get interesting.
Right.
You go beyond just listing the task name. You capture every detail like priority level, current status, detailed description, even links to related documents or other resources.
That's cool.
Plus, you can link it to the specific sprint that it belongs to.
Wow.
Like a central hub for all information related to that task.
So walk me through an example. Say we have a task called Design the Login Page.
Okay.
What would that look like as an Obsidian note?
You'd have a note titled Design the Login Page.
Okay.
Inside, you'd specify that it's part of, say, Sprint 1.
Okay.
Maybe it's high priority. The status is to do, and you'd have a detailed description.
Right.
Maybe something like, design a responsive login page that includes error handling and is consistent with the overall website style guide.
Right.
Having it all in one place makes it easy for everyone to stay informed.
Yeah, and aligned.
Yeah.
That's super helpful.
Yeah.
Our source also mentions creating sprint planning notes. What is the purpose of those?
That's like the master plan for each sprint. A central note where you lay out the overall goals, list all the tasks, set clear deadlines.
Got it.
You could even link those individual task notes we talked about.
Oh, wow.
Directly into this sprint planning note.
Okay.
Becomes a roadmap for that specific sprint.
I like it. Like a mission control center.
Exactly.
For your sprint.
Yeah.
You can see the big picture and all the small moving parts at a glance.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've set up our workspace, created our task notes, and mapped out our sprint plan.
Right.
What's next?
Now it's all about execution and tracking your progress.
Okay.
This is where Obsidian's flexibility shines. You can use a variety of tools to visualize your workflow, like Kanban boards.
Kanban boards, those are the ones with columns like to do and progress and done, right?
Right.
You can drag and drop tasks as they move through the workflow.
Exactly.
I've seen them before. Never really understood what made them so powerful.
It's about making information instantly accessible and fostering a sense of shared understanding.
Right.
With a Kanban board, the whole team can see where each task stands, helps identify bottlenecks, adjust priorities, and keep the sprint on track.
Okay, I'm starting to get the appeal, but here's where things take a turn.
Okay.
We've talked about how Obsidian can be used for sprint planning.
Right.
Which seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
But you're telling me this same tool can be used to design something as complex as a neural network.
I am.
I got to admit, that seems like a big leap.
It might seem that way.
Yeah.
But at their core, both sprint planning and neural network design involve breaking down complex processes into smaller parts and then mapping out the relationships between those parts.
Yep.
What makes Obsidian so powerful is that it allows you to represent those systems in a way that our brains naturally understand.
Okay.
Visually.
So you're saying the way Obsidian lets you link notes together is mirroring how our brains make connections between different pieces of information.
Exactly. There's this concept called network thought.
Oh, cool.
Which suggests our brains are wired to make connections.
Okay.
We don't just store information in isolated compartments.
All right.
We weave it together into this web of meaning.
Gotcha.
Obsidian's visual graph view actually taps into this natural way of thinking.
Wow.
It lets you see how your notes relate to each other.
So how does this translate into practical benefits?
Imagine you're working on a challenging problem.
Right.
You've got notes all over the place, ideas, research, code snippets.
Right.
In a traditional note-taking app, you'd have to scroll through endless lists or search to find what you need.
Right.
It's a very linear way of working.
I see.
But with Obsidian, you can visually explore your notes, follow connections, and often discover those aha moments that you wouldn't have found otherwise.
So those unexpected connections, the ones you wouldn't have made if you were just looking at a list of notes, can lead to new insights and creative breakthroughs.
Absolutely. It's like Obsidian helps you think outside the box without you even realizing it.
That's cool, but isn't there a risk of getting lost in all the connections?
Yeah, that's a valid concern.
Right.
Like any tool, Obsidian is most effective when it's used intentionally.
Okay.
The key is to find the right balance between structure and flexibility.
I see.
You don't want to over-engineer your notes or force connections where they don't exist.
Yeah.
It's about using that visual graph view as a guide, a way to spark new ideas and see your knowledge from different angles.
That makes sense, like having a map.
Exactly.
That helps you navigate a landscape.
Yeah.
You don't have to follow every path.
Right.
But it gives you a sense of direction and helps you discover landmarks along the way.
Exactly. And the more you use Obsidian, the more refined your map becomes.
Oh, that's cool.
It evolves with your thinking.
Wow.
Becoming a reflection of your knowledge and understanding.
Okay, this is making me want to open up Obsidian right now.
Yeah.
And start connecting all my notes.
Yeah, it's great.
But before I go down that rabbit hole.
Okay.
Are there any downsides to using Obsidian? It can't be all sunshine and roses, can it?
You're right. No tool is perfect.
Okay.
While Obsidian is powerful, it does have a bit of a learning curve, especially if you're new to Markdown or the concept of a second brain.
Right. It's not as simple as opening a blank document and just typing away.
Right.
You have to kind of wrap your head around the structure and the linking.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think that's part of the appeal.
Oh, yeah.
It makes you think more about how you organize information.
I agree. And for those willing to put in the effort, the rewards are worth it.
Okay, so let's say someone's intrigued and wants to try it out.
Yeah.
What would you recommend as a good first step?
I would say start small.
Okay.
And focus on one specific use case. Okay. Maybe it's something we've talked about, like sprint planning. Or maybe it's something like organizing your research for a personal project.
Got it.
Or a new area of study.
And don't forget about the amazing Obsidian community.
Oh, yeah. That too.
There's tons of helpful resources out there. Yes. Tutorials, blog posts, YouTube channels dedicated to helping people get the most out of Obsidian.
Absolutely. The community is one of the best things about Obsidian.
Speaking of tips and tricks.
Yes.
Are there any Obsidian plugins that you find particularly useful?
Oh, there are so many great ones.
Yeah, I bet.
But if I had to pick a few, I would recommend DataView. Lets you query your notes. Create dynamic tables and lists based on the info in your notes.
So, for example, I could create a table that shows all tasks related to a specific project.
Exactly.
Sorted by due date or priority.
Yeah. It's like having a built-in reporting tool.
Oh, wow.
That helps you track progress, identify patterns, and gain insights from your notes.
That's awesome.
Another favorite of mine is the Calendar plugin.
Okay.
Integrates seamlessly with your notes.
Cool.
And lets you schedule events and deadlines right in Obsidian.
That's convenient.
It is.
It's like your calendar, to-do list, and note-taking app all in one place.
Exactly.
You mentioned some other plugins you use for neural network design.
Oh, yeah.
Any others come to mind?
The Excalidraw plugin is great.
Okay.
Allows you to create diagrams and sketches.
So you could sketch out the architecture of your neural network.
Precise.
Visually, right there in Obsidian.
Exactly. Super helpful for brainstorming. Visualizing complex concepts, whether it's a neural network, software design, or even just a mind map of ideas.
Gotcha.
And can't forget that one.
Right. You mentioned that one before when we were talking about collaboration.
Yes.
You said that while Obsidian itself doesn't have version control, you can use Git to manage different versions of your notes and avoid conflicts.
Exactly. Right. It's a little more technical, but worth it.
Especially when working on big projects or collaborating with others. So we've talked a lot about the more technical and productivity-focused applications of Obsidian.
Yeah.
But I've also heard of people using it for more creative things.
Yes.
Like writing, journaling, even world building.
It's true. Obsidian's flexibility makes it great for any creative endeavor that involves organizing and connecting ideas.
Makes sense.
Writers can use it to outline stories, develop characters, track complex plot lines.
Especially for writers that are creating those intricate stories with rich backstories and interconnected worlds.
Absolutely. Because Obsidian allows you to link notes so effortlessly.
Right.
You can create a web of interconnected ideas impossible to manage with other methods.
Like building your own personal wiki.
Exactly.
I love that. Really captures the essence of Obsidian.
Yes.
Creating a dynamic, interconnected knowledge base that grows with your thinking.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
We've covered so much today.
Yeah.
Sprint planning, neural networks, creative writing.
Right.
As we wrap up this part,
okay.
Any key takeaways you want our listeners to remember?
I think the most important thing to remember is that Obsidian is more than a note-taking app.
Right.
It's a tool for thinking.
Yeah.
Creating, connecting ideas in ways that were previously unimaginable.
And it's not just for techie people or productivity gurus.
Right.
Anyone can benefit.
It's about finding what works best for you.
And not being afraid to experiment.
Well said. I think we've covered a lot.
We have.
Ready to dive into collaboration.
Let's explore how Obsidian can amplify teamwork and knowledge sharing.
All right, let's do it.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm still reeling from how versatile Obsidian is.
Me too.
You know, we saw how it can be used for sprint planning.
Right.
And even designing neural networks. Really makes you wonder what else this tool can do.
Yeah.
But before we jump into some more advanced features, you mentioned that both sprint planning and neural network design involve breaking down complex things into smaller parts.
Right.
And then mapping out the relationships between those parts.
Exactly.
Could you elaborate a little more on that?
Of course. It is a fascinating parallel.
Yeah.
Whether you're building a website feature or you're architecting a neural network, you're dealing with systems. And systems are made up of interconnected parts.
Right.
What makes Obsidian so powerful is that it lets you represent these systems in a way that our brains naturally understand.
Okay.
Visually.
So you're saying that the way Obsidian lets you link notes together is actually mirroring how our brains make connections between different pieces of info.
Exactly. There's a concept called networked thought, which suggests that our brains are wired to make connections.
Interesting.
You don't just store information in isolated compartments. We weave it together into a web of meaning.
Okay, I see.
Obsidian's visual graph view taps into this natural way of thinking.
Right.
Lets you see how your notes relate to each other, almost like a mind map.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So how does this translate into practical benefits?
Imagine you're working on a challenging problem.
Okay.
You have notes scattered all over the place, ideas, research code snippets.
Right.
In a traditional note-taking app, you might have to scroll through endless lists or search for keywords to find what you need. Right. It's very linear.
Yeah.
But with Obsidian, you can visually explore your notes.
Okay.
Follow the connections and discover aha moments that wouldn't have emerged otherwise.
So you're saying that those unexpected connections, the ones you wouldn't have made if you were just looking at a list, can lead to new insights and creative breakthroughs.
Absolutely. It's like Obsidian helps you think outside the box without you even realizing it.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it is.
But isn't there a risk of getting lost in the visual chaos?
That's a valid concern.
Right.
Like any tool, Obsidian is most effective when used intentionally.
Okay.
The key is to find the right balance between structure and flexibility.
Right.
You don't want to over-engineer your notes or force connections that aren't really there.
Yeah.
It's about using that visual graph as a guide.
Okay.
A way to spark new ideas and see your knowledge from different angles.
Makes sense, like having a map.
Exactly.
Helps you navigate a complex landscape.
All right.
You don't have to follow every path. But it gives you a sense of direction and helps you discover landmarks.
Exactly. The more you use Obsidian, the more refined your map becomes.
Oh, cool.
It evolves with your thinking and becomes a reflection of your knowledge.
I like it.
Yeah.
This is making me want to open Obsidian right now and start connecting all of my notes.
It's a good feeling.
It is, but before I go down that rabbit hole,
yeah,
are there any downsides to using Obsidian?
You're right. No tool is perfect.
Right.
While it is powerful, it does have a bit of a learning curve.
Okay.
Especially if you're new to Markdown or the idea of a second brain.
Okay, so it's not as simple as just opening a blank doc and typing away. You have to wrap your head around the structure and the linking.
Yeah, you do.
But honestly, I think that's part of the appeal.
Oh, yeah.
It encourages you to be more deliberate and thoughtful about how you organize information.
I agree. For those willing to put in the initial effort, the rewards can be significant.
Okay, so let's say someone is intrigued and wants to give it a try.
Yeah.
What's a good first step?
Start small.
Okay. Focus on one specific use case.
Right.
Maybe something we talked about like sprint planning.
Yeah.
Or maybe organizing research for a personal project. Or a new area of study.
Right. And don't forget that amazing Obsidian community.
Oh, yeah, the community is great.
Tons of resources online.
Yes, lots of them.
Tutorials, blog posts, YouTube channels, all dedicated to helping people get the most out of Obsidian.
It's one of the best things about Obsidian.
Speaking of tips and tricks, are there any Obsidian plugins that you find particularly helpful?
Oh, there are so many.
I bet.
If I had to pick a few, I'd say Data View is great.
Okay, Data View.
It lets you query your notes and create dynamic tables and lists based on the information they contain.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's really powerful for analyzing and visualizing the information in your vault.
So, for example, could I create a table that shows all the tasks related to a project?
Exactly.
Sorted by due date or priority?
Yeah, you can. It's like having a built-in reporting tool.
Helps you track your progress, identify patterns, and gain insights from your notes.
That's incredible.
Another one of my favorites is the Calendar plugin.
Okay.
Integrates seamlessly with your notes and lets you schedule events and deadlines.
Right in Obsidian.
Right there in Obsidian.
So convenient.
Very convenient. It's like having your calendar to-do list and note-taking app all in one.
All in one. I like it.
Yeah.
You mentioned some other plugins that you use for neural network design.
I did.
Any others come to mind?
Excalidraw is a game changer.
Okay. Excalidraw.
Yeah, it lets you create diagrams and sketches right inside your notes.
So you can sketch out the architecture of your neural network visually.
Precisely. It's so helpful for brainstorming and visualizing complex concepts.
That's so cool.
It is, whether it's neural network architecture, software design, or even just a mind map.
Right.
It's great, and can't forget about Git.
Right, Git. You mentioned that earlier.
I did.
When we were talking about collaboration. You were saying that Obsidian itself doesn't have built-in version control?
It doesn't.
But you can use Git to manage different versions of your notes and avoid conflicts.
Exactly. It adds a little bit of technical complexity.
Okay.
But it's well worth it for working on large projects.
Right.
Or collaborating with a team.
So we've talked a lot about the technical and productivity-focused applications of Obsidian.
We have.
But I've also heard about people using it for more creative pursuits.
Yes.
Writing novels, journaling, even world building for role-playing games.
It's true. Obsidian's flexibility makes it surprisingly powerful for creative endeavors.
Wow.
That involve organizing and connecting ideas.
I see.
Writers, for example, can use it to outline their stories, develop characters, and track complex plots.
Right, and especially helpful for writers who are creating those intricate stories.
Exactly.
With all the backstories in an interconnected world.
Exactly, because Obsidian allows you to link notes together so easily. You can create a web of interconnected ideas that would be impossible to manage with other tools.
I love that analogy, building your own personal wiki for your creative projects.
Yes, it really captures the essence of Obsidian.
It does.
Creating this dynamic, interconnected knowledge base that grows with your thinking.
We've covered so much ground today.
We have.
Sprint planning, neural network design, creative writing.
Yeah, all over the place.
As we wrap up this part, are there any key takeaways you want our listeners to remember?
I think the most important takeaway is that Obsidian is more than a note-taking app.
Right.
It's a tool for thinking, creating, and connecting ideas in ways that were previously unimaginable.
And it's not just for tech-savvy people or productivity gurus.
It's for everyone.
Anyone who wants to organize their thoughts, explore new ideas, and build a personal knowledge base can benefit from using Obsidian.
Absolutely. It's about finding what works best for you.
And not being afraid to experiment.
Well said. I think we've covered a lot in this part.
We have.
Ready to move on to collaboration?
Absolutely. Let's explore how Obsidian can be used to amplify our collective intelligence.
Okay.
And unlock new levels of knowledge sharing.
Let's go.
Okay, we are back and ready to explore the collaborative side of Obsidian.
Okay.
We've seen how powerful it can be for individuals.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to see how it can amplify knowledge sharing and teamwork. Seems counterintuitive, right?
Yeah.
A tool known for personal knowledge management is now being used for group projects.
Well, I think it speaks to how we're starting to think about knowledge differently.
Okay.
Moving away from knowledge being individually owned to a shared resource.
Okay.
Something that can be amplified through collaboration.
I like that. Yeah. So how does Obsidian facilitate this?
Well, the simplest approach is sharing your vault.
Okay.
You know that folder where all your notes live with others?
Okay.
You can use cloud services like Dropbox or Google Drive.
So if I'm working on a project with a team, we could all have access to the same notes.
Exactly.
See what each other is working on.
Yeah, it's like having a shared digital workspace.
I can see that being great for brainstorming.
Oh.
Or keeping everyone on the same page.
Yeah.
What about version control?
Oh, good point.
If multiple people are editing the same notes, won't things get messy?
That's where Git comes in.
Okay, Git?
Yeah, that popular system for tracking changes in code.
So it needs a little more setup.
It does.
But it provides that extra layer of security and collaboration.
Exactly. And there are some great plugins that integrate Git right into Obsidian.
Oh, very cool.
Makes it pretty simple.
Okay, so we have shared vaults. Are there any other ways to collaborate?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
Obsidian Publish is a game changer.
Okay, Obsidian Publish.
Yeah.
What's that?
It lets you turn your notes into a website.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Instead of just sharing my notes with a team, I could create a website.
Yes.
Where anyone could access them.
Exactly.
That's incredible.
I know, it's a great way to share your expertise. Create educational resources.
Okay.
Even build a community around shared interests.
I've actually seen some really cool Obsidian published websites.
Oh, yeah.
From blogs to courses to whole research repositories.
It's really a whole new way to share information.
And because they're built with Markdown files, they're super fast and lightweight.
Very easy to maintain.
I like that. Simplicity and accessibility seem to be recurring themes with Obsidian.
They are. And here's another thing. It can foster a sense of collective knowledge creation.
Now, that sounds interesting. How does that work?
Let's say you're passionate about the history of coffee.
Okay, coffee.
You publish your notes on a website. And then anyone who's interested can read your work, but also comment. Ask questions and contribute their own insights.
So it's taking your notes and turning them into a collaborative knowledge base.
Exactly. That back and forth can lead to new discoveries.
Wow.
And even deepen everyone's understanding.
This whole idea of collective knowledge creation is very exciting to me.
Me too.
It points to a future where information is much more open and collaborative.
I agree. Tools like Obsidian are at the forefront of this shift.
We have gone deep on Obsidian today.
I know, it's a lot.
From personal productivity to technical projects to collaborative knowledge sharing.
Yeah.
This tool seems to have endless possibilities.
It does.
As we wrap up this deep dive, any final words of wisdom?
If I could leave you with just one thought, it would be to not be afraid to experiment.
Yeah.
Obsidian empowers you to think and learn and create in ways that we couldn't have imagined before.
And don't be afraid to connect with that amazing Obsidian community.
Oh, yeah, they're great.
So many resources and tips out there.
Absolutely. The more you use Obsidian, the more you'll discover its potential.
It's a journey of exploration.
It is.
And the possibilities are truly endless.
They are.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We hope you learned a lot about Obsidian and maybe feel inspired to give it a try.
I hope so too.